Chapter 1. Falling into the Abyss. Naruto stood on a cliff near the border of Konoha, watching the last rays of the setting sun slowly disappear over the horizon. This was one of his favorite places. Here he felt free, far from the problems of the village, from views full of expectations and hopes. Naruto had been through a lot in recent years, and although he managed to cope with difficulties, an incomprehensible burden remained in his soul. But that evening the silence was especially oppressive. The wind died down, the leaves of the trees froze, as if even nature itself was holding its breath. Naruto felt it with his entire being. Something was going wrong. His battle-hardened intuition signaled danger. He frowned, but before he could do anything, the air around him began to vibrate. Feeling the familiar but incredibly strong chakra, Naruto turned around sharply. The sky split. A crack, similar to a rupture in space, opened right in front of him. Streams of bright light burst out, blinding the eyes. "What the?" Naruto managed to shout out before he was pulled into this light. He felt his body being constrained by an unknown force. Images flashed, faces of friends, battles, moments of joy. Everything was mixed up in chaos, like a whirlwind of memories. The next second, everything disappeared. Silence. Darkness. When Naruto woke up, he was surrounded by a completely different world. The ground underfoot was covered with strange symbols, shimmering with muted light. Ruins rose around it, as if there had once been a majestic city here that had fallen under the weight of time. The gray sky without the sun, covered with clouds, only added to the feeling of hopelessness. He stood up, trying to comprehend what had happened. "Where am I?" he muttered, feeling his head. My head was spinning, but my body still felt the remnants of that strange power. The answer came unexpectedly. A figure began to appear from the air in front of him. A tall man with white skin, with long hair that flowed down his back, was floating in the air. His eyes, decorated with rinnegan patterns, looked at Naruto with an expression of cold superiority. "Welcome, Naruto Uzumaki," said the stranger. His voice was deep, devoid of emotion, as if he was talking about something insignificant. "You found yourself in the world of Otsutsuki. There is no place for pity or forgiveness. You came here to pass the test." "Trial?" Naruto tensed, his muscles instinctively preparing for battle. "Who are you, and what kind of test?" The figure just grinned. His smile was filled with hidden menace. "You must collect 8 teleportation crystals to return to your world. But it's not as simple as it sounds. Each crystal is guarded by one of us. To get them, you must defeat those who are superior to you in everything." The stranger's words thundered through Naruto's head like thunder. He had already encountered Otsutsuki in the past. He knew their strength. But here he felt something different. This place itself exuded power, and he had to withstand enemies the likes of which he had never encountered. "And why do you need this?" he asked, trying to understand the motives of what was happening. "Why me?" "Because you are the chosen one. But enough talk. This is just the beginning of your journey. Show that you are worthy." The figure disappeared into thin air, leaving Naruto alone. He stood still, trying to comprehend what had been said. His heart beat faster, not from fear but from anger. It all sounded like someone else's game, and he hated being taken advantage of. "Okay, if so," Naruto clenched his fists. "If this is a test, I will pass it. No matter who you are, I will defeat you all." His thoughts were interrupted by a strange sound. The ground shook underfoot and a roar was heard from afar. Naruto turned in that direction and saw a massive creature approaching him. It resembled a monster from nightmares, huge, with 6 arms and eyes that burned like torches. His steps shook the ground, and with each approach, the creature became larger. This is the beginning, Naruto thought, jumping to the side to avoid the monster's blow. His first battle in this strange world had begun. Chapter 2. The First Crystal. The monster struck Naruto with a force that surpassed anything he had faced before. The ground cracked under the weight of his blows, and the air vibrated with a powerful roar. Naruto dodged using his speed, but every movement was difficult for him. This place seemed to suck energy, making every action harder. "Everything is different here," he realized, barely avoiding another blow. "But I can't afford to lose." Gathering chakra, Naruto created 2 clones that rushed at the monster, distracting it. He himself concentrated chakra in his hands, preparing the Rasengan. His clones managed to briefly distract the monster's attention, and Naruto rushed forward, directing his attack towards the creature's chest area. "Rasengan!" he shouted, slamming a sparkling ball of energy into the monster's body. The explosion echoed across the desert plains. The monster recoiled, its gigantic body swaying. Naruto was preparing to strike again, but suddenly a strange weakness came over him. The power he put into the Rasengan turned out to be too great for this world. It seemed to him that space itself was resisting his chakra. The monster did not fall. Instead, his body began to change. The wounds that Naruto had inflicted began to disappear, and a stream of energy burst out of the monster's mouth, hitting him like an avalanche. It was impossible to dodge. The blow was too fast. Naruto was thrown several meters and fell to the ground. "Is this really all?" flashed through his head. He struggled to his feet, his body aching in pain. "You underestimated your opponent," said a voice. Naruto turned around. The same figure that met him before appeared again in front of him. Her expression was impassive, but there was a hint of contempt in her voice. "You only encountered the first guard. If you can't beat him, don't think you can go any further." "Shut up already," Naruto shouted, clenching his fists. His eyes flashed with determination. "I won't lose no matter how many times I have to get up." The figure disappeared, but its words remained in Naruto's memory. He gathered all his remaining energy, concentrated, and again directed his gaze at the monster. If power doesn't work directly, you need to think strategically. "If I can't destroy it, then I need to look for a weak point," he thought. His attention was drawn to strange symbols on the creature's body. They flickered with a faint light, especially on his left hand. Naruto realized, this place needs to be attacked. But how to break through his defenses? Naruto created clones again, but this time, not to attack. The clones began to distract the monster, dragging it in different directions. Meanwhile, the real Naruto used Shadow Shuriken to test the creature's reaction. One of the shuriken hit the symbol on his left hand, and Naruto noticed how the monster flinched. "Got it," he thought, and began to act. Naruto concentrated all his chakra in one place, preparing a new technique. He needed to land one precise blow. When the monster once again turned to him, he rushed forward, moving to the side to avoid another attack. Right in front of the monster, Naruto jumped, forming his signs in a split second. "Fire Rasengan!" he shouted, unleashing his attack on the symbol. This time the blow was accurate. The Rasengan slammed into the symbol, causing a massive explosion. The monster roared. Its body began to disintegrate, turning into glowing particles. A moment later, the creature disappeared, and in its place remained a strange object, a crystal emitting a soft light. Naruto walked up to him, struggling to stand. He picked up the crystal, feeling a strange warmth emanating from it. This was the first of 8. As soon as he lifted the crystal, the space around him began to change. The earth shook, and the air became thick like water. A figure appeared in front of him again, but this time it was someone else. Dressed in exquisite robes, with golden patterns on his arms, this Otsutsuki looked at Naruto with slight curiosity. "You managed to pass the first test. But this is just the beginning, mortal. The next crystal is located deep in the Mountains of Shadows. But before that, you will have to pass through our domain." His smile was icy. "Possessions?" Naruto clenched his fist, hiding the crystal in his bag. "I will go through whatever you have in store." "Confidence." Otsutsuki bowed his head thoughtfully. "Let's see how much of it you have left." The figure dissolved and Naruto felt the air become free again. He looked around, trying to find the direction to go. Somewhere in the distance, he noticed a faint light that made its way through the fog. "My journey is just beginning," he thought, heading towards the light. Chapter 4. Shadows of the Labyrinth. Naruto took the first step into the dark passage. Cold air washed over his face, and he felt a strange anxiety stir within him. The walls of the corridor, covered with strange symbols, flickered with a pale light, as if alive. Each step echoed, creating the illusion that he was not alone. A labyrinth, then? Well, let's see who wins, he thought, clenching his fists. He had barely walked a few meters when he heard something fall with a crash behind him. Turning around, he saw that the entrance to the passage was completely blocked with stones. There was no turning back. "Great," Naruto muttered. "So you can only go forward." He continued to move, carefully examining every corner. Soon the corridor split into 3 paths. Naruto stopped, trying to feel the chakra, but the strange place completely blocked his abilities. "We'll have to rely on intuition," he decided, choosing the left path. The path led him through a narrow corridor where the air became increasingly heavier. Soon he heard strange sounds, quiet steps, as if someone was following him. Naruto stopped and turned around but didn't see anyone. "Who's here?" he shouted, preparing to attack. There was no answer, but the sound did not stop. He took a few steps back, listening. And then a figure burst out of the shadows. It was a guardian, but not like the ones he had fought before. His body was covered in black armor, and in his hands he held 2 curved blades. "So it begins," Naruto said, taking a fighting stance. The guard attacked with lightning speed. His strikes were fast, and Naruto barely managed to dodge each time. He realized that this opponent was much more dangerous. The clones were destroyed in an instant, leaving Naruto to rely only on himself. "He's too fast," he thought, blocking another blow. "We need to slow him down." Naruto quickly made his seals, releasing a stream of chakra. His typhoon barrier technique surrounded the space, creating pressure that slowed down the guard's movements. This gave Naruto a little respite. He concentrated, creating a huge Rasengan and sent it straight towards the center of the guard. The blow turned out to be accurate. There was an explosion, and the enemy's armor was shattered into pieces. But instead of disappearing, the guard began to recover. "How much can you do?" Naruto shouted, feeling tiredness starting to take over. He realized that the only way to win was to find a weakness. His gaze fell again on the symbols on the guard's body. They glowed brighter with every movement. Naruto decided to take a chance. His new plan was simple: distract the guard and strike the symbol with precision. Having created several more clones, he sent them to attack. The guard turned his attention to them, giving Naruto the opportunity to get closer. When he was close enough, Naruto poured all his remaining chakra into one attack. His Rasengan hit the symbol directly, causing a powerful explosion. This time the guard screamed as his body began to disintegrate. Naruto fell to his knees, breathing heavily. The battle took more from him than he expected, but something appeared in front of him. A small luminous ball, similar to the first crystal. He picked it up, feeling the warm energy of the crystal restore his strength. This was the second of 8. 2 out of 8, he said, rising to his feet. 6 more, I can handle it. As soon as he took the crystal, the labyrinth began to change. The walls shook, the corridors disappeared, and a new road appeared in the center. At its end, he saw light. Naruto headed there, not knowing what awaited him ahead. When he emerged from the maze, he was faced with a view of a vast valley dotted with strange structures. Each of them looked like a giant tower reaching into the sky. Next crystal, Naruto thought as he looked around. But his thoughts were interrupted by a familiar voice. The shadow that had been watching him reappeared. "You are beginning to understand that every step requires sacrifice, Naruto Uzumaki," she said. "The closer you are to your goal, the heavier your burden will be." Naruto clenched his fists, looking straight into the shadow. "I already realized that it won't be easy. But I won't stop." The shadow froze for a moment before disappearing. Her words still rang in his head like a warning. He looked at the valley, feeling that a new test awaited him ahead. Chapter 5: Whispers of the Valley. Naruto stood at the edge of the valley, watching as the shadows began to come to life. The sky darkened, as if absorbing the last of the light, and the air was filled with a strange, overwhelming noise. Something huge was moving in the distance. Its silhouette was barely visible in the thick fog. "Not like a normal test," he muttered, clenching his fists. His body still ached from the recent battle, but there was no time to rest. The valley in front of him was a desert plain covered with giant towers. Each of them emitted a faint glow, as if holding this dark world on itself. Their tops were lost in the sky, and from the base emanated thin lines of energy that intersected in the center of the valley, forming a symbol. This place was clearly key to those who ruled this world. Something is wrong here, Naruto thought, as he felt powerful but hostile chakra emanate from each tower. Its flow created the feeling that space itself was resisting his presence. He took the first step forward. With every movement, the feeling of danger intensified, as if the valley was warning him of a coming threat. As they approached the center, details began to emerge from the fog. A massive creature sleeping on the ground. His body was covered with black plates resembling armor, and spikes protruded from his back, emitting an ominous light. Is this the keeper? Naruto thought. He wasn't sure, but there was a growing feeling inside him that awakening this monster would be the biggest mistake. He froze, assessing the situation. The creature did not move, its breathing was deep and heavy. But something strange began to happen around him. The shadows falling from the towers began to flow towards the monster, as if feeding it. The more shadows gathered, the brighter the spikes on his back became. Looks like I have no choice, Naruto decided. If he wants to advance further, this creature must be stopped. He concentrated, activating all his chakra. This time, he wasn't going to waste time figuring out weaknesses. His goal is to attack quickly and powerfully. Having created 3 clones, he began to prepare a new technique. Senchu Rasengan! Naruto shouted as he threw a sphere of energy straight at the monster. The sphere hit its target, causing a powerful explosion that spread the fog around. But when the smoke cleared, the creature was still standing. Moreover, his eyes began to open. Huge, sparkling like 2 suns, they looked straight at Naruto. Great, he muttered, tensing his muscles. I woke him up. The monster rose to its feet, its huge claws scraping the ground. He let out a roar that shook the air. Naruto managed to jump to the side, dodging the blow, which left a deep furrow in the ground. He realized that the enemy was slow, but incredibly strong. If I can't defeat him with force, I need to use speed, he decided, activating hermit mode. With this thought, he began to move. Jumping from one place to another, Naruto released one attack after another, trying to cause damage. His clones distracted the monster's attention, giving him the opportunity to target vulnerable spots. However, every attempt seemed futile. The creature's armor was impenetrable, and its power destroyed everything around it. At some point, the monster suddenly stopped. Its spikes began to emit a bright light, and a stream of energy burst out of its mouth. Naruto barely managed to dodge, but was thrown back by the blast wave. Crap, he thought, getting to his feet. If this goes on, I'll just run out of steam. His gaze fell again on the towers. Lines of energy from each of them led directly to the monster. He realized that the creature draws power from these towers. So we need to destroy them, he decided, switching his attention. Naruto rushed to the nearest tower. Its structure turned out to be strong, but he did not waste time. Using the tailed bomb, he directed all his power towards the base of the tower. An explosion occurred, and the tower collapsed, leaving behind a cloud of dust. The monster immediately let out a roar. Its movement slowed down, and the light on the spikes became dimmer. Naruto realized his plan was working. He didn't stop. Rushing to the next tower, he repeated the attack. Another explosion, another tower destroyed. With each fall, the monster became weaker, and its attacks became more chaotic. With the last tower remaining, Naruto gathered all his strength, knowing that this attack would be decisive. He channeled all his chakra into one powerful Rasengan and destroyed the tower. It collapsed with a loud crash, and with it the energy that fueled the monster disappeared. The monster fell to the ground. Its body began to disintegrate into glowing particles. A second crystal remained in the center, shining with a soft light. Naruto walked over and picked it up. A feeling of relief briefly overcame him, but he knew there was no time to rest. As soon as he took the crystal, the sky began to clear, and a new road appeared in the distance. But at that moment a voice was heard, echoing throughout the valley. You did it, but this is just the beginning. The further you go, the more you lose. Naruto looked up. The same shadow that had been watching him before loomed in the sky for a moment. Her words resonated with a cold foreboding in his heart. Chapter 6. Guardians of the Limits. Naruto slowly moved forward, feeling the air getting thicker. The silhouettes ahead began to take shape. 5 tall, imposing figures with shining eyes, standing in a perfectly measured circle. Their auras radiated such power that every movement was difficult. These are not just guards, Naruto realized. Each of them exudes power comparable to real Otsutsuki. His gaze swept over his surroundings. The platform the figures stood on was surrounded by energy emanating from strange symbols on the ground. The symbols flickered in time with the chakra of the guards, as if synchronizing with their breathing. Well, mortal, said one of them, tall with hair as white as snow. His voice was calm, but there was a hidden threat in it. You passed the first check, but they won't let you go further. You have no chance, added a woman with long jet black hair. Her eyes glowed silver and her chakra undulated like waves. Turn around and leave while you still can. I would love to, but there's no turning back, Naruto replied, clenching his fists. If you want to block my path, you will have to fight me. Naruto's words caused the figures to look at each other. The white-haired man chuckled, and the silver-eyed woman sighed as if he was sorry. Then you have chosen your fate, said the third guard, massive with eyes blazing like fire. We will show you what it means to stand up to real power. The figures began to move. Their chakra, like a stream, filled the space around. Naruto barely had time to react as the first guard disappeared from the spot and appeared in front of him. His blow was lightning fast, but Naruto managed to move out of the way. The impact split the ground, leaving a deep crack. They're fast, flashed through his head. He created several clones to distract them and jumped back, creating distance. But at the same moment, another guard, a woman with silver eyes, waved her hand, and her chakra pierced one of the clones, destroying him instantly. Her attacks were precise, as if she saw Naruto's every move in advance. We need to change tactics, he decided, activating hermit mode. His chakra strengthened and he concentrated, trying to anticipate their attacks. The battle turned into chaos. Each of the guards attacked in their own way, using unique techniques. One created streams of fire that left behind scorched earth. The other controlled the earth, creating walls and traps. Naruto had to do his best to avoid their attacks. If I continue like this, I'll run out of steam ahead of time, he realized. We need to separate them. He channeled his chakra into the technique. Creating a giant Rasen shuriken, he threw it at the center of the guards. The explosion was powerful, sending up a wave of energy and dust. But when the smoke cleared, Naruto saw that they were almost unharmed. This is not enough, he thought, beginning to analyze their actions. His gaze fell on the symbols on the ground. They shone brightest when the guards attacked. Naruto realized that their power came not only from themselves, but also from this place. He needed to destroy these symbols. He created several shadow clones and directed them to different parts of the platform. The guards noticed his intention and immediately began to attack the clones, but Naruto used this as a distraction. He himself formed the seals and directed a powerful flow of chakra into the symbols. When the first symbol collapsed, the air around became lighter, and the attacks of the guards slowed down a little. Naruto realized that his plan was working and continued to act. One by one, the symbols disappeared. The Guardians were noticeably weakened, but still remained strong opponents. Their blows became chaotic, but each was deadly. Naruto barely managed to dodge as the man with fiery eyes unleashed a powerful blast of chakra at him. The wave knocked him down, but he immediately got up, gathering all his strength for the final blow. With the last symbol remaining, Naruto gathered all his chakra into one powerful Rasengan. He aimed it straight at the center of the platform. The explosion blew away the remains of the symbol, and the platform began to collapse. The guards froze. Their bodies began to lose their shape, becoming transparent. One of them, a woman with silver eyes, looked at Naruto with a slight smile. "You have destroyed our connection to this place," she said, "but you don't yet know what you awakened with your victory." As the guards disappeared, the platform began to collapse. A luminous object appeared in the center, the third crystal. Naruto walked over and picked it up. As soon as he touched the crystal, the light around him became brighter, and the space began to shake. "What now?" he thought, preparing for a new threat. Chapter 7, Gate of the Abyss. The light around Naruto became blinding. The ground cracked under his feet, and he felt something unknown pulling him into the void. A moment later, his body found itself in a new space, full of strange energies floating in the air, from which huge pillars grew. They emitted light, each flash of which was accompanied by a feeling of ancient power. Silhouettes began to emerge from these pillars. They became increasingly clear, taking shape. 6 figures, each of which exuded incredible power. Their auras filled the space with pressure, so much so that Naruto had to activate hermit mode just to stay on his feet. "Another mortal decided to try his luck," said one of them, tall, with skin shimmering with silver. His voice was calm, but there was an ancient, unyielding strength in it. "You've already come further than many. But this is where your journey ends." "They always say that," Naruto grinned, straightening up and preparing his chakra. "But for some reason I always manage to get further." Naruto's words caused one of the figures, a woman with long golden hair, to laugh. Her laughter was ringing, almost melodic, but there was mockery in it. "Do you think your determination means anything in this world?" she asked, her eyes flashing bright red. "Here your strength is nothing." The 6 figures began to move in unison, their movements flowing like a dance. Each of them left a trail of energy behind them, which soon began to intertwine, creating a giant energy sphere in the center of their circle. Naruto immediately realized that if this sphere was completed, the chances of victory would disappear. He rushed forward, creating several clones to create a distraction. His first blow landed on his closest opponent, a massive man with armor that resembled scales. However, his fist bounced back as if hitting a stone. "You underestimate us," he said, without even staggering from the attack. He raised his hand and rings of glowing energy appeared around Naruto. Naruto managed to dodge before the rings closed. However, this was just the beginning. The remaining enemies began to attack simultaneously. Each of them used unique techniques: streams of fire, lightning, whirlwinds of water, and even gravitational fields. Naruto had to do his best to avoid their attacks. "They work as one," he realized, dodging another explosion. "If I don't destroy their coordination, I have no chance." His clones began to act. They attacked from all sides, creating chaos. This gave Naruto time to focus on the energy sphere in the center. He gathered all his chakra, preparing a powerful Rasengan. "Let's try this," he shouted, throwing a sphere of energy directly into the center. The explosion was stunning. A wave of energy spread throughout the entire space, momentarily disorienting the enemies. However, the sphere remained intact. Its light became even brighter. "You don't understand anything, mortal," said the Silver Man. "This sphere is powered by your chakra. The more you attack, the stronger it becomes." Naruto gritted his teeth. His first strategy had failed, and now he needed to come up with something new. He carefully observed his enemies, trying to find their weaknesses. His gaze settled on the line of energy connecting each of the enemies to the sphere. "This is it," he realized. "If I destroy these connections, the sphere will lose its power." He rushed forward, directing the attack towards one of the lines, but as soon as he approached, his attack was stopped by a woman with golden hair. Her strike was fast, and Naruto barely had time to defend himself. Their battle became a dance of attacks and dodging, but the woman was clearly toying with him, not allowing him to get closer to the line. "You're too slow," she said, easily avoiding his blows. But Naruto didn't give up. He used his clones to distract her and finally managed to break through the line. When the connection was broken, the sphere began to flicker, and the woman recoiled, as if she had lost some of her strength. "One is ready," Naruto said, wiping sweat from his forehead. 5 left. Each time he destroyed a new line, he encountered a new enemy. Each had their own tactics, their own unique abilities. One used giant streams of water that washed away everything in its path. The other manipulated gravity, causing Naruto to move with incredible force. But every time he became faster, more accurate, and smarter. When the last line remained, all six figures gathered in front of him. They looked weakened, but their resolve remained intact. "Do you think you won?" said the Silver Man. "We are just part of the test. You haven't understood anything yet." "Maybe so," Naruto replied, activating all of his chakra. "But that won't stop me." With these words, he struck the final blow, destroying the last line. The energy sphere disappeared, and the figures began to dissolve into the air, leaving behind a bright light. A new road and a crystal appeared in the center, emitting a warm glow. Naruto picked it up, feeling his strength return. But before he could catch his breath, the space began to shake again. Chapter 8: Embodying Power. The voice that came from the depths of the light echoed throughout the entire space, causing the air to vibrate and the earth to tremble. Naruto struggled to maintain his balance, feeling a powerful wave of energy cover his head. Something huge began to form from streams of light in front of him. Shapes appeared first, massive limbs covered in iridescent symbols, similar to those Naruto had seen on the ground and walls in previous trials. Then the silhouette took shape, a gigantic creature that seemed to have absorbed all the light and darkness of this world. His eyes burned brighter than the sun, and huge energy spikes extended from his back, each of which emitted suppressive chakra. "You destroyed my guards," repeated the voice coming from the creature. "Now you have to meet the one who has been watching you from the very beginning." Naruto straightened up, clenching his fists. His body still ached from the battle with the six figures, but he couldn't afford to show weakness. "Did you observe?" he asked, looking intently at the giant. "So you were the shadow that was watching me all the time?" The creature grinned, and its smile filled the air with an ominous sound. "I'm not a shadow, boy. I am the embodiment of the power that rules this world. You came here to be tested, but instead you destroy everything you touch. Let's see if you can withstand my justice." Naruto didn't wait for his opponent to strike the first blow. He knew that this fight would be much more dangerous than anything he had faced before. After creating several shadow clones, he activated hermit mode and channeled all of his chakra into his hands. "If this is your world, then let's check what you can do," he shouted, rushing forward. The clones attacked the giant, but their attacks were useless. Fists and Rasengans collided with the energy barrier that surrounded the creature, spreading across the surface like water. The real Naruto used the moment to get closer, but his blow also did not penetrate the defense. The giant looked down at him as if he were an insignificant creature and raised his hand. In an instant, a stream of energy erupted from her, knocking Naruto off his feet and throwing him back. "You are insignificant," the creature said, its voice full of contempt. "Even your hermit power is just a drop in the ocean." Naruto stood up, wiping the blood from his lip. He quickly assessed the situation. The barrier protected the giant, but where did he get his energy? His gaze fell on the symbols covering the creature's body. They shimmered in time with his movements, as if nourishing protection. "These symbols again," he thought. "So we need to destroy them." He rushed into battle again, creating a more complex strategy. The clones continued to distract the giant's attention, while Naruto used his speed to focus on his symbol attacks. His first blow landed on one of the spikes, and for a moment, the symbol faded. "Eat!" flashed through his head. But the joy was short-lived. The giant roared and unleashed a new stream of energy on Naruto, which left a deep furrow in the ground. "You are playing with fire, mortal," he said, again focusing his power. "But do you know that fire can destroy even you?" Each of Naruto's attacks became more accurate. He focused on destroying the symbols, knowing that this was the only way he could break through the defenses. One by one, they began to fade, and with each destruction, the giant became slower, his blows less accurate. However, the price was high. Naruto was exhausted. His chakra was depleted, and each new attack of the giant became more chaotic and deadly. At some point, he found himself at the edge of his capabilities. His body refused to move. "You are close to your limit," the creature said, its voice louder than ever. "And I'm just getting started." Naruto on his knees took a deep breath. Kurama's voice spoke inside him. "Hey man, are you going to die like this?" The fox growled. "You forget that you have me." "Kurama," Naruto whispered, "do you think we can do this?" "We have no choice," answered the fox. "Let's combine our forces and show this thug who's boss." Kurama's chakra flared, filling Naruto's body with new strength. His eyes glowed, and a glow appeared around him. He stood up, feeling energy filling every cell. "You should have chosen a different opponent," Naruto said, his voice more confident than before. "Now it's my turn." He rushed forward, his attacks becoming faster and more powerful. The last symbol on the giant's body collapsed, and the barrier disappeared. Naruto gathered all his chakra into a giant Rasen Shuriken, aiming it straight at the creature's heart. "This is the end!" he shouted, unleashing all his force on the enemy. The explosion was so powerful that it illuminated the entire space. The giant roared, his body began to crumble, and his voice gradually faded away. "You surprise me, mortal," he said, disappearing. "But remember, something much worse awaits you ahead." When the smoke cleared, Naruto stood alone. His breathing was heavy, but he knew he had won. A fourth crystal appeared in the center of the field. He picked it up, feeling the warmth fill his body. However, the silence did not last long. The space shook again, and a new sound was heard from afar. A rumble, similar to the steps of something even more massive. Chapter 9. The Threshold of Reality. The portal in front of Naruto flashed with an unearthly light, and symbols burst out of it, floating in the air, leaving trails of energy behind them. Each symbol seemed to live its own life, creating incomprehensible patterns that either disappeared or reappeared. The chakra coming from the portal was different, not hostile, but also unlike anything Naruto had encountered before. He took a step forward, feeling a strange force begin to pull him in, like gravity. The pressure increased with every second, forcing him to tense his entire body. But he couldn't stop. He needed to move on. If this is connected to reality, then perhaps this power is the source of everything that happens in this world, Naruto thought, feeling the tension in the air growing. When he entered the portal, the world around him changed. The space stretched, the sounds disappeared, and he found himself in a place that resembled an endless void. But the emptiness was not frightening, but on the contrary, strangely peaceful. A staircase appeared in front of him, going upward to infinity. Ladder? Naruto was surprised. And where does it lead? He took the first step, and at that moment the silence was broken by a voice that came from somewhere above. The voice was deep, ancient, and sounded as if it came from the world itself. "Welcome, chosen one," he said. "You have entered the threshold of reality, a place where even the gods experience fear." With every step upward, Naruto felt the world around him change. The space bent, shapes and colors became irregular. The ground disappeared, and he seemed to be floating in the void. But with every step, he felt his own chakra mixing with the energy of this place. Suddenly, the stairs ended, and he found himself in front of a huge sphere floating in the air. It shimmered with all colors, and the very symbols that he had seen earlier rotated inside it. The energy from the sphere hit in different directions, creating cracks in the surrounding space. "You have approached the very essence of reality, mortal," the voice rang out again. "But you won't be able to take the crystal until you prove yourself worthy." Figures began to form out of thin air in front of Naruto. They resembled shadows, but each of them was huge and terrifying. Their form was unstable, as if they were part of this world, but their chakra was palpable. These were the defenders of the sphere. "If you want to gain the power that will open the way," said the voice, "prove that you are able to control it." The first shadow rushed towards Naruto. Her movement was so fast that he barely had time to dodge. She attacked not physically, but by reality itself, changing the space around. The ground Naruto was standing on was disappearing, and he had to use his speed to avoid falling into the void. These creatures don't just use chakra, he realized. They change reality itself. He activated hermit mode, feeling his own chakra begin to interact with the energy of the place. His attacks became faster, and his movements more precise. He created a Rasengan and aimed it at the first shadow. The blow hit the target, but the shadow did not disappear. Instead, it split into two, each attacking with renewed vigor. "Well, no," said Naruto, creating clones. "If you change reality, I can also play by these rules." The clones began to distract the shadows, creating an opportunity for Naruto to focus. He realized that attacks were useless as long as the creatures fed on the energy of the sphere. "If I destroy the sphere, they will disappear," he decided. Gathering all his chakra, he created a giant Rasen Shuriken and sent it straight towards the sphere. The blow was powerful, but the sphere survived. Moreover, it absorbed the energy of the attack, becoming brighter. "Stupid," said a voice. "You can't destroy her by force." Naruto stopped as he felt his chakra begin to drain. He closed his eyes, trying to figure out what to do. Kurama's voice came from within him. "Have you forgotten who you are, boy?" the fox growled. "You are not only a ninja, but also someone who can combine strength and intelligence. Use your head, not just your fists." Naruto opened his eyes. His gaze settled on the symbols inside the sphere. They moved in a certain sequence, and he realized, this is not just decoration. This is the key. If I can change the order of the symbols, I can break the structure of the sphere, he guessed. He made seals, channeling chakra into his hands. Using manipulation techniques, he began to change the symbols. Every time he moved one of them, the sphere shook, and the shadows began to attack with renewed vigor. But Naruto didn't give up. His clones continued to distract his enemies, giving him time. When the last symbol fell into place, the sphere stopped. Its light began to fade and the shadows froze as if they had lost contact with the source of power. Suddenly, the sphere split and a bright light burst out of it. A fifth crystal appeared in front of Naruto. He picked it up, feeling the energy fill his body. But before he could catch his breath, the voice spoke again. You changed reality, but what will you do if reality itself begins to change you? Chapter 10. World Out of Time. Naruto felt his body become weightless, as if the very space that held him no longer existed. The new portal, emitting dark energy, fascinated with its strange, frightening aura. Something unknown wafted from there, something that seemed both alien and infinitely powerful. What is this place? A thought flashed before his consciousness was completely swallowed up by darkness. When Naruto opened his eyes, there was nothing around him. Absolute emptiness. No ground under your feet, no horizon. He stood in endless, cold nothingness. Even his breath was not reflected in the air, as if this place absorbed any sounds and movements. You have found yourself in a place where there is no time, no space, a voice rang out. But he was not the same as before. This time it sounded right in his head, as if it were part of his own thoughts. Is this another test? Naruto tensed, trying to feel the chakra, but his own energy seemed scattered. He felt like a fish out of water. This is not a test. This is the truth, answered the voice. Here you will not face enemies, but yourself. Naruto became wary. These words did not promise anything good. He had barely taken a step forward when something began to form in front of him. The fog thickened, becoming denser, and soon a figure stepped out of it. She was an exact copy of Naruto, the same clothes, the same eyes. The only difference was that her eyes glowed bright red, and powerful, frightening chakra emanated from her body. You think you can beat everyone you meet? Asked the double, his voice sounding mocking. But you will never defeat who you are. The double rushed forward with stunning speed. Naruto barely managed to dodge, and the next blow sent him flying several meters away. The pain was real, despite the strangeness of the place. He stood up, wiping the blood from his lip. This is more than just an illusion, he realized. The double did not give him time to think. His attacks were fast, precise, and incredibly powerful. Every move seemed perfect, as if he knew all of Naruto's weaknesses and used them against him. You can't defeat me because I am you, the doppelganger said, blocking Naruto's attempt to attack. Your pride, your fear, your doubts, it's all me. Naruto jumped back, making his seals. He created several clones which immediately rushed to attack. But the double destroyed them all in one move, his speed and strength clearly superior to the original. You can't hide behind clones, he said. It's no use. Naruto paused, trying to come up with a strategy. Each of his attacks ended in failure, but he knew that the key to victory must be in this place. He closed his eyes, focusing on his inner state. If this place is something outside of time and space, perhaps different rules apply. When he opened his eyes again, everything around him had changed. The void became a thick fog from which images emerged. He saw himself as a child, alone, sitting on a swing. Scenes from the past replaced each other. Ridicule, pain, loneliness. You're afraid of this, said the double, appearing next to him. You're afraid to admit that part of you is still weak. Naruto clenched his fists as he looked at his own memories. He knew those images were true, but they didn't define him. Maybe I was weak, he said, but I didn't become strong because of my pride. I became strong because I realized that I could change. The double grinned, but his aura began to weaken. His strikes became less accurate and his chakra less intimidating. You are beginning to understand, said the voice. To conquer yourself, you need to accept yourself. Naruto gathered all his chakra, concentrating on one final blow. His hands began to glow with light and his eyes flashed with brightness. I'm not afraid anymore, he said, directing all his strength towards his double. Because I know who I am. The blow was blinding. The double disappeared, and with it all the images. The world around became empty again, but this time the emptiness seemed warm and soothing. Another sphere appeared in front of Naruto. The sixth crystal flickered inside it. He walked over and took it, feeling the energy fill his body, but the peace did not last long. The space around him began to crack, and through the cracks flashed images of a new world, a world filled with chaos and destruction. Naruto felt his body being drawn to the next challenge again. Your journey is not over yet, said a voice. The next test will be the hardest for you. You will enter a world where your enemies will be not only outside, but also inside. Chapter 11. Between Worlds. Naruto's body felt like it was melting, being torn apart. He felt his chakra mixing with streams of energy that belonged to two worlds at once. The feeling was excruciating, but he held on, gritting his teeth. He knew that the next test would be not only physical, but also spiritual. His soul and body must endure something that was beyond comprehension. The space around him exploded with light, and he found himself in a strange place. Everything here seemed familiar and foreign at the same time. The sky shimmered with colors that he had never seen, and the earth consisted of fragments of different worlds, as if everything was assembled from the fragments of reality. "You have reached the limit," said a voice that seemed stronger and louder than all the previous ones. "Here you will have to face something that you will never be able to win." Naruto looked around, trying to find the source of the voice, and suddenly a figure began to form out of thin air in front of him. She was huge, her body shimmered with gold and silver, and her eyes burned like two supernovae. It was a creature whose appearance inspired both fear and awe. "I am the top of this world," the creature said, its voice deep and echoing throughout the space. "Those who come here see their own essence, but you will see something more." The creature raised its hand, and the air around Naruto burst into flames. He felt an invisible force grip his body. It was not chakra, it was the very fabric of reality which obeyed the will of the creature. "You don't understand what you're dealing with," the creature said. "This is not a fight you can win." "Maybe," Naruto answered, gathering the last of his strength. "But I'm not one of those who give up without a fight." He activated hermit mode, releasing his chakra. He managed to free himself from the creature's grip, but he knew that this was only the beginning. He created several clones, which immediately rushed to attack. But the blows that fell on the creature only scattered against its defense, like drops of water on a stone. The creature swung its hand, and the energy like an explosion sent Naruto and his clones flying. The ground cracked beneath him, and he barely had time to get up to avoid the next blow. "You don't understand, Naruto." The creature's voice sounded both sad and threatening. "I am not an enemy whom you can defeat by force. I am the one who was before your world and will remain after." Naruto stopped, breathing heavily. He realized that direct attacks were useless. This creature was more than just an opponent. It was itself a part of this world, a source of energy that he had felt from the very beginning. "If I can't defeat him by force, I need to look for another strategy," he thought. His gaze fell to the ground. The symbols he had seen before began to appear again. They reached out to the creature, as if they connected it with this place. "It's a connection," Naruto guessed. "If I destroy it, I can weaken him." He began to act. Having created clones, he directed them towards the symbols. The creature noticed his intention and intensified its attacks. Each blow was so powerful that the space around it cracked and broke. Naruto moved quickly, dodging the attacks. His clones destroyed one symbol after another. Each time the symbol disappeared, the creature began to weaken, and its strikes became less accurate. "You are playing with fire, mortal," said the creature. "You can't even imagine what you will free if you destroy these connections." "Maybe," Naruto replied, tearing off the last symbol, "but I'll never know if I don't try." When the last symbol was destroyed, the creature roared. His body began to fall apart, and the space around him began to collapse. Naruto felt his strength leaving him, but he stood until the last, watching the creature disappear. A bright flash of light appeared at the place where it stood. When it faded, the seventh crystal appeared in front of Naruto. He picked it up, feeling the energy fill his body. But before he could rest, the space around him began to change shape. Chapter 12. The Flame of the Final Trial. Naruto stood on the edge of his new reality, trying to get used to the unbearable heat. The world in front of him was literally on fire. The sky resembled red-hot metal, and the ground underfoot cracked, emitting an ominous crackling sound. A gigantic building towered on the horizon, as if growing out of hell itself. It resembled a fortress, but its walls seemed to move, pulsating with energy. The chakra of this place was incredible, so powerful and dense that it could literally be felt on the skin. Naruto knew that inside this fortress was the last crystal, but he also felt that the path to it would be the most dangerous. "This is the last stage," he thought, clenching his fists. "I can't stop now." As Naruto took his first step, he immediately felt the ground beneath him shake. Flames began to burst out of the cracks, and figures began to rise from the fiery depths. They resembled fire demons. Their bodies were made of lava, and their eyes shone with a yellow light. Their roar echoed across the desert, creating waves of heat that burned their skin. "Of course you had to show up," Naruto muttered, getting into a fighting stance. "Well, let's see who wins." The first demon rushed forward, its movements unexpectedly fast for such a massive creature. Naruto managed to dodge, but the second demon immediately attacked from the side. He used the Rasengan to parry the blow, but the energy of the collision threw him back. "They are strong," he said to himself, rising to his feet. "But I'm not a weakling either." He activated hermit mode, his chakra flaring like blue fire, creating a protective barrier around him. After creating several clones, Naruto began to attack. His clones distracted the demon's attention, and he himself used their confusion to focus on precise strikes. The first demon collapsed, its body beginning to disintegrate, leaving behind only clouds of smoke. However, the victory was short-lived. new demons began to rise from the depths. There were more of them, and they were becoming stronger. If this goes on, I'll just run out of steam, Naruto thought, dodging another blow. Deciding to change tactics, he focused on finding a way forward. His goal was the fortress, and fighting the endless stream of demons was only taking up time. Using the clones as a distraction, he created a giant Rasen shuriken and aimed it at the ground in front of him. The explosion created a cloud of dust, and using this curtain, Naruto rushed towards the fortress. He ran across the battlefield, dodging the attacks of the demons that were chasing him. When he reached the gates of the fortress, they swung open of their own accord, emitting a deafening grinding sound. Naruto stepped inside, feeling the heat subside but the fear of the unknown grow. Inside, the fortress turned out to be even more sinister. The walls glowed red, and liquid magma seemed to flow out of them. In the center of the large hall, right under the dome, a figure hovered. It was a being whose chakra surpassed anything Naruto had sensed before. Her silhouette was both majestic and terrifying, long wings that looked like red-hot blades, and eyes that shone like two stars. "You have finally arrived, Naruto Uzumaki," the creature said, its voice deep and echoing throughout the hall. "The last crystal is here, but you won't take it away." "You don't even know what I'm capable of," Naruto replied, taking a fighting stance. The creature laughed, and its laughter made the walls shake. "This test is not about your strength," it said. "It's about whether you can accept the sacrifice it will take to win." The battle has begun. The creature attacked Naruto with waves of flames that filled the entire hall. He had to move with incredible speed to avoid the streams of fire. His own attacks seemed to do no harm to the creature. Every Rasengan and every blow dissipated like drops of water on fire. "You cannot defeat me," the creature said. "You are not ready to pay the price." "What price?" Naruto shouted, dodging another blow. "Power can only be gained through sacrifice," it answered. "Are you ready to sacrifice what is dear to you?" Naruto froze for a moment. His mind was filled with images, his friends, his village, everything he had fought for. He understood that this test was not about physical strength, but about how much he was willing to risk everything for his goal. "If I don't do this, everything will be in vain," he thought, gathering all his chakra. His eyes flashed brighter than ever. He created a technique that he had never dared to use before and aimed it at the creature. At the moment of impact, the space around was filled with blinding light. The explosion shook the entire building and the creature let out a deafening scream. When the light faded, the creature disappeared. In its place, a final crystal appeared, floating in the air. Naruto picked it up, feeling his body fill with energy. But the joy was short-lived. The walls of the fortress began to crumble, and streams of fire burst out of the cracks. "This is not the end yet," said the creature's voice. "You defeated me, but now you must finish what you started." Chapter 13. War on the World. The roar of the collapsing fortress was deafening. Naruto stood in the center of the chaos, clutching the last crystal in his hand. He felt the energy from the portal in the sky suck in everything around him, distorting space and time. The ground cracked under his feet, and the sky shimmered with strange colors that he had never seen. The portal expanded, releasing streams of energy that resembled living beings. These streams were intertwined into complex patterns that instantly destroyed everything they came into contact with. The air around was vibrating, and the chakra of the world itself was becoming uncontrollable. "You have reached your limit, Naruto Uzumaki," a voice came from the portal. He sounded both hostile and solemn. "Now you have to make a choice. Destroy this world or save it at the cost of yourself." Naruto gritted his teeth. With every step towards the exit, he felt how reality itself was trying to hold him back. The energy squeezed around him like invisible hands, distorting his chakra. "If I don't do this, everything I've been through will be in vain," he thought. The fortress continued to collapse, and new streams of energy burst out of the cracks. Each of them took the form of a creature reminiscent of the guardians from the previous trials. They surrounded Naruto, their eyes glowing with rage and their bodies shimmering with light. "We are the embodiment of this world," the creatures said in unison. "You destroyed his balance, and now we will take away what you are trying to protect." "If you need me to back down," Naruto said as he created clones, "then you got the wrong guy." The creatures attacked simultaneously. Their blows were accurate and their force was crushing. Naruto dodged using his speed, but he knew he wouldn't last long. He focused on his clones, directing them to divert attacks while he began to study the creature's weaknesses. Each of them emitted a certain chakra, but this chakra did not come from themselves. Naruto noticed that their connection to the portal was the key to their power. "If I can break this connection, I can weaken them," he decided. He concentrated, forming the seals for a powerful Rasen shuriken. His goal was not the creatures themselves, but their connection to the portal. The blow was powerful, and one of the energy lines cracked. One of the creatures let out a roar, its body disintegrating into glowing particles. "One is ready," Naruto said, but there was no time to rest. The remaining creatures intensified their attacks. He continued to evade, breaking one connection after another. Each time the line disappeared, the space around it became less stable. When the last connection remained, the portal in the sky began to distort. Its light became less bright, but at the same time the chaos intensified. "You're close," a voice rang out, now more hoarse. "But remember, destruction and creation go hand in hand. Are you ready to make a sacrifice?" As the last creature disappeared, the portal shook, and a powerful stream of energy erupted from it, enveloping Naruto. He felt his body shrink and his consciousness being pulled into a new reality. He found himself in a void where there was neither time nor space. In the center of this emptiness, a man appeared. His face was covered in light, and his body shimmered with patterns that resembled the symbols Naruto had encountered along the way. "You've been through everything," the man said. "But do you know that your strength is not only your merit? She is part of the world that you strive to change." "What do you mean by this?" Naruto asked, clenching his fists. "To complete your journey, you must become part of this world," the man answered. "You must give up part of your essence to restore balance." Naruto froze. He understood that we were talking about the sacrifice he was told about. But what did this really mean? The man extended his hand, and all the crystals that Naruto had collected appeared around him. They began to spin, forming a glowing circle around him. The light became blinding, and Naruto felt his chakra begin to change. She was no longer his own. She was becoming something more. "You can choose. Become part of a new world or destroy everything you defended," said the man. "Decide." Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto closed his eyes. He saw the faces of his friends, Konoha, everything he fought for. He knew it was his responsibility. He opened his eyes with determination burning in them. "If for the sake of peace I have to give up part of myself, I'm ready," he said. "But only on my terms." The light flashed around him, and he felt his body fill with new strength. All 8 crystals fused with him, creating an energy that could change reality itself. Naruto raised his hands, channeling that power into the portal. He felt the world begin to stabilize, but at the same time his own essence was gradually disappearing. When the light faded, he stood alone. The emptiness gave way to a clear sky, and there was solid ground underfoot. There was no more chaos around him. Peace has been restored. But Naruto felt that he had become part of this world. His chakra now flowed through every blade of grass, through every tree. He knew he could never return to Konoha, but he knew he made the right choice. Chapter 14. Keeper of the Balance. A bright light appeared on the horizon, so powerful that it obscured everything else. Naruto stood motionless, feeling the light pulling him forward. His heart was beating faster, and there was a voice in his head that echoed throughout the space. "Peace has been restored, but balance always requires a guardian. Are you ready to become the one who will keep it?" These words made Naruto think. He raised his eyes to the light, trying to understand who was speaking to him. But there was no answer. Only a light wind passed through the new land, as if everything around was awaiting his decision. He took a step forward, and the ground beneath him began to change. The space sparkled, shapes and colors distorted, as if the world was adapting to something new. Every step he took was a step into the unknown, but he knew that he could not stop. He felt his chakra connecting with this world, becoming part of something larger. "What does it mean to be a balance keeper?" Naruto asked out loud, hoping the voice would answer. "It means being part of the world, but not belonging to it," came the answer. The voice was calm and deep. "Your power is no longer yours. It belongs to everything that is around." Something new began to form in front of him. This time it was not an enemy, but an image. A huge tree whose roots went into the ground and whose branches reached to the sky. The light emanated from its leaves, creating a feeling of calm and strength. "This is the tree of balance," said the voice. "It is the source of everything that exists. You have restored it, but now it must be protected." Naruto moved closer, carefully touching the tree bark. As soon as he did this, he felt a powerful stream of energy rush through his body. He saw images of the past, present, and future, all connected by invisible threads. "Why me?" Naruto asked, looking at the tree. "Why should I be this guard?" "You are the one who took on the weight of the world," answered the voice. "You went through tests that no one could overcome. You have proven that you are capable of sacrificing yourself for others." Naruto fell silent. He remembered everything he had gone through. Battles, losses, sacrifices. He knew that his path had brought him here for a reason. But he also knew that this choice would make it impossible for him to return to his old life. "I made a lot of decisions," he said, "but this means leaving everything I loved behind." "Love will not disappear," said the voice. "She will become part of this world, just like you. Your power will now protect them, even if they never know you were here." Naruto closed his eyes, gathering his thoughts. He knew he had no choice. His heart told him it was right, but his mind resisted. He saw the faces of his friends, their smiles, their faith in him. He couldn't let them down. Okay, he said, opening his eyes. I'll do it. I will become a guardian. As soon as those words were spoken, the tree began to glow brighter, its light enveloping Naruto, lifting him into the air. He felt his body dissolve in this light, becoming part of something great. His chakra was no longer his. It flowed through the branches, through the roots, through the ground. You have become part of the tree of balance, said the voice. The world is now protected. Naruto woke up standing under a tree. He was the same, but different at the same time. He felt every part of this world, every life, every emotion. He was part of it. In the distance, he saw the restored lands filled with life. The wind carried the sounds of laughter, the voices of people who would never know about his sacrifice. But it didn't matter. He knew he made the right choice. Chapter 15. Shadows of Menace. Naruto stood at the base of the Tree of Balance, enjoying the silence of the world he had helped restore. The light from the tree branches created a feeling of peace, and for the first time in a long time, he felt that his efforts were not in vain. But this harmony did not last long. As soon as the wind blew, Naruto caught a strange whisper in its sounds. The whisper was weak but alarming, as if someone was calling him from afar. This feeling, like pressure on his chest, made him wary. He felt the tree's chakra begin to fluctuate, as if there was a crack in that perfect balance. This is impossible, he thought, looking around. I have restored peace. Where can the threat come from? But an inner voice told him that this peace would not last forever. The whispers became louder, turning into voices that came from all directions. Naruto concentrated, trying to pinpoint the source. But instead of answering, he felt the ground shaking under his feet and the sky beginning to darken. A strange light appeared in the distance, like a crack in reality itself. From this crack flowed dark energy similar to the one he felt in the Otsutsuki world. But it was different, more ancient, more dangerous. This energy moved as if alive, rushing towards the Tree of Balance, as if trying to absorb its light. Is this really not enough? Naruto said, activating his chakra. If someone wants to destroy the balance, they will have to go through me. He jumped to the source, preparing to fight, but the crack began to expand, and figures began to burst out of it. They resembled creatures from the Otsutsuki world, but their bodies were covered in black energy, and their eyes glowed with red light. Their movement was fast and chaotic, and the force emanating from them seemed destructive. The first creature attacked Naruto with such speed that he barely had time to dodge. His opponent's blow was so powerful that it left a deep crack in the ground. Naruto counterattacked, creating a rasengan, but his blow only passed through the creature's body as if through smoke. They are not from this world, he realized, jumping back. They cannot be defeated with normal attacks. He activated hermit mode, feeling his chakra merging with the energy of the Tree of Balance. Light began to emanate from his body, and at that moment one of the creatures retreated, as if afraid of this light. This is it, Naruto realized. The light of the tree is their weakness. He started using a new strategy. By creating clones, he directed them to distract enemies, while he concentrated the energy of the tree in his attacks. Each of his blows, amplified by the light, scattered the creatures, causing them to disappear like smoke in the wind. But with each enemy destroyed, the dark energy from the crack became stronger, and new figures appeared. It's useless, said a voice from the crack. You can destroy these servants, but you will never defeat the source. Naruto froze. The voice was cold and full of power, like the voice of emptiness itself. Who are you? He shouted, looking at the crack. Show yourself! A new figure emerged from the crack. He was a tall man. His body was covered in armor that shimmered with black and gold energy. His eyes glowed with a bright red light, and his aura was beyond anything Naruto had encountered before. I am the guardian of the rift, he said. I came to take what you tried to protect. Balance is an illusion. There is only room in this world for chaos. Naruto felt the Tree of Balance's chakra begin to fluctuate even more. He knew that this creature was not just an enemy, it was the embodiment of destruction, a force opposed to everything he stood for. Do you want to destroy the world? Naruto asked, getting into a fighting stance. Then I won't let you do this. You don't even understand what the world is, the Rift Guardian grinned. But if you want to fight, I will show you how insignificant your strength is. The battle has begun. The Guardian of the Rift attacked with incredible speed, his blows destroying everything around him. Naruto barely had time to dodge, his chakra draining with every movement. He tried to use the tree's power, but the enemy's dark energy blocked it, preventing him from reaching his full potential. Each blow from the Guardian was like an explosion, and Naruto felt his body begin to give out. But he couldn't afford to fall. I didn't go through all this to lose, he said, gathering all his strength. He activated a technique that connected his chakra with the energy of the Tree of Balance. The light from his body became brighter, and the guardian of the rift retreated for a moment, covering his face with his hand. "Do you think that light will conquer darkness?" He grinned. "Then let's finish this." Naruto gathered all his remaining energy, creating a giant Rasen Shuriken filled with the light of the tree. The guardian of the rift directed his dark energy at him. Their powers collided, creating an explosion that lit up the entire world. When the smoke cleared, Naruto was on his knees, breathing heavily. The guardian of the rift has disappeared, but the crack remains. Her energy was weaker, but it did not disappear completely. Chapter 16, Rift Seal. Naruto looked at the crack, from which dark energy continued to ooze. Despite defeating the guardian of the rift, he knew that this was only a temporary respite. The crack, like a wound in the universe itself, still remained open, and its ominous chakra spread across the earth, disturbing the balance. He stood up, feeling fatigue weighing heavily on his shoulders. The Tree of Balance chakra flowing through his body was stable, but it seemed to him that the tree itself was afraid of the approach of this darkness. "We need to do something," Naruto muttered, looking at the crack. "But how can I close it if I don't even know where it came from?" Naruto stepped towards the crack, but as soon as he got closer, a new stream of dark energy burst out of it. He managed to jump away, but felt this energy penetrate his chakra, trying to poison it. He clenched his fists, pushing away the feeling of weakness. "This place is like a living wound," he thought. "If I don't close it, it will destroy everything around." New figures began to form from the dark stream. They resembled those that Naruto had already defeated, but their auras were weaker. He activated hermit mode and made quick work of them. But with each enemy destroyed, the crack grew larger, as if absorbing their power and becoming stronger. "I can't continue like this. Something drastic is needed," he decided. His thoughts were interrupted by a voice coming from deep within the crack. It was the same voice he had heard before, but this time it sounded tired, as if the rift itself was fighting to survive. "You can't shut me out," said the voice. "I am part of this world. If you destroy me, you will destroy him too." Naruto froze. The words of the voice were full of poison, but there was also some truth in them. He felt that the rift was truly connected to the world, of which he himself now became a part. "But if you do nothing, the rift will destroy everything," he thought. "You may be part of the world," Naruto said, clenching his fists, "but that doesn't mean you have to destroy it. I will find a way to stop you." He sat down on the ground, closing his eyes. His chakra began to slowly flow in unison with the energy of the Tree of Balance. He plunged into meditation, trying to feel the connection between the crack and the world. He needed to understand its nature in order to find a way to close it. He saw images in his mind. These were fragments of the past that he could not notice before. The moment of the creation of the Tree of Balance, the wars that led to its destruction, and finally, the appearance of the rift. He realized that the crack was the result of an imbalance between light and darkness. "It's all due to an imbalance," Naruto said, opening his eyes. "If I can regain my balance, I can close the crack." He stood up, feeling his chakra stabilize again. He needed a new plan. Naruto decided to use the full power of the Tree of Balance to create a seal that would close the crack. It was a risky idea, but there were no other options. Having created several shadow clones, he began to form complex seals. Each of them required a huge amount of chakra, and he felt his strength leaving him. But he didn't stop. The light from the tree became brighter, and the crack began to react to his actions, emitting streams of energy, trying to interfere. The clones distracted the streams of dark energy while Naruto continued to create seals. When the final seal was completed, he channeled all of his chakra into the crack. The light from the seal engulfed her, and for a moment everything around her froze. "This is not the end yet," said a voice. "You can seal me, but I will return if the light becomes weak again." "Then I will make sure the balance is never upset again," Naruto said, sending the last stream of chakra into the crack. The light became blinding. The crack began to shrink, its dark energy disappeared, and the world around became more stable. After a few moments, everything became quiet. The crack disappeared, and in its place, only smooth earth remained. Naruto breathed heavily, feeling his strength running low. But he knew he did what he had to do. He looked at the Tree of Balance, which was now glowing brighter than ever. It was restored, and the world became whole again. But he knew that this peace could be temporary. Balance always requires effort, and he will have to protect it while he lives. Chapter 17, Echoes of Power. Naruto stood in front of the smooth ground, where only a short time ago there had been a broken crack. The silence that followed seemed absolute. But a vague anxiety still raged inside him. Even though the crack had disappeared, something in the world seemed wrong. The Tree of Balance once again shone with a bright light, but its chakra that flowed through Naruto conveyed a strange sensation. She was restless, like water agitated by a light wind. Deep down, he understood. This was the calm before a new storm. Balance has been restored, but for how long? He thought, clenching his fists. The light of the tree suddenly changed. Its branches, which always shone with a calm golden light, began to emit flashes that either faded or became bright again. These changes could not have been accidental. Naruto moved closer, touching one of the branches. As soon as he did this, images began to flash before his eyes. He saw vast lands covered with dense forests, rivers, and mountains, people living in harmony with nature. But then everything began to change. These same lands were engulfed in darkness. The people disappeared, and in their place, shadows appeared, similar to the creatures he had already defeated. These shadows captured everything around, leaving emptiness behind them. "What is this?" he muttered, moving away from the tree. Suddenly, a voice came straight into his head. It was the same voice that had spoken to him earlier, but now it sounded tense. "The balance has not yet been fully restored," said the voice. "You have sealed the crack, but its roots are deeper than you can imagine." "Roots?" Naruto asked. "I closed the crack. Where could the new threat come from?" "This crack was just the beginning," the voice answered. "The source of the imbalance is far beyond your understanding. If you don't find him, the world will once again be on the brink of destruction." Naruto clenched his fists. He could not afford to rest while danger still hung over the world. But where should he go? How to find this source? "The tree knows the way," said the voice as if reading his thoughts. "You must follow his chakra. It will show you the way." The branches of the tree began to glow, their light directed towards one point on the horizon. It was a distant place where the earth merged with the sky. Naruto knew he had a long way to go. "Okay," he said, activating hermit mode. "If it's the only way, I'll do it." The path was difficult. The lands he crossed seemed deserted to him. There was no life or sounds here, only silence, which became heavier with every step. But the tree continued to guide him, and he could not stop. Several hours passed before he reached the place where the branches pointed. It was a valley hidden between the mountains. The air was thick here, and Naruto felt the familiar dark chakra. She was weak, but persistent, as if she was waiting for him. He entered the valley, and immediately the ground began to tremble under his feet. Dark figures began to rise from the cracks, reminiscent of those he had seen earlier. But this time there were more of them, and they looked stronger. "You again?" Naruto muttered as he got into a fighting stance. "Well, let's finish this." The first figure rushed at him with stunning speed. Naruto dodged, releasing the Rasengan, which immediately destroyed the enemy. But then two attacked him at once. He created shadow clones that distracted them, giving him time to strike. But with each enemy destroyed, their number grew. Naruto began to get tired, but his determination never wavered. He knew that this place was not just another battlefield. There was something more lurking here. When the last enemy disappeared, the valley fell silent. Naruto stood there, breathing heavily, but his attention was drawn to a strange glow in the center of the valley. It was a stone emitting a faint light, surrounded by ancient symbols. A strong chakra emanated from him, which was both dark and light. "This is it," he said, coming closer. But as soon as he took a step, a figure appeared in front of him. It was a man, or at least he looked like a man. His eyes shone like two stars, and his body radiated the same energy as the stone. "You came here to find the answer," said the stranger, "but you don't even understand the question." "Who are you?" Naruto asked as he prepared to fight. "I am the keeper of this place," he answered. "And if you want to find out the truth, you will have to go through me." Chapter 18, Beyond Time. The space around Naruto and the stranger began to change. The air became thick, and time seemed to slow down. Even the sound of the stranger's footsteps sounded drawn out, as if this world obeyed different laws. Naruto felt his movements become heavier, and the chakra within him flowing slower than usual. "You have disturbed the peace that has existed for centuries," said the stranger, his voice resounding like an echo. "This world does not need your intervention." "If this was a world of peace, there would be no darkness here," Naruto replied, clenching his fists. "You know the balance is off." "Balance?" The stranger grinned. "You talk about balance without realizing that it is just an illusion. The world cannot be in balance. He must always lean towards the light or towards the dark." With these words, he took a step forward, and the space around him cracked. Every step he took was accompanied by an energy explosion that made the ground beneath Naruto tremble. Naruto activated hermit mode, trying to stabilize his chakra in the distorted reality. His eyes glowed, and Kurama's chakra began to slowly seep out, adding to his strength. He knew that the enemy was dangerous, but there was nowhere to retreat. The first blow came suddenly. The stranger disappeared and appeared right in front of Naruto, his fist already heading for his chest. Naruto managed to block, but the force of the blow threw him back several meters. The ground cracked beneath him and the air exploded with tension. He's strong, Naruto thought as he stood up, but he is not invincible. Naruto created several clones that surrounded the stranger. The clones attacked from different directions, trying to find a weakness, but the stranger moved so fast that their attacks seemed slow. Each clone was destroyed in a split second, and its movements were so precise that they seemed perfectly calibrated. "You are wasting time on useless attempts," said the stranger. "This battle is not for those who rely on strength of numbers." "Then let's see what you have to say about this!" Naruto shouted as he activated a giant Rasengan. He rushed forward, directing the attack directly at the enemy. The explosion from the collision was deafening. The ground split into cracks, and the air was filled with light. But when the dust cleared, the stranger stood unharmed. He raised his hand and Naruto's remaining energy disappeared as if it had been absorbed by his chakra. "You are strong, Naruto Uzumaki," he said, "but your strength is nothing compared to my knowledge. Here, in the world beyond time, only understanding can win." Naruto realized that his normal attacks were useless. This enemy is not just strong, he completely controls the space and time around him. He closed his eyes, focusing on his sensations. The Tree of Balance's chakra flowed through him, and he began to look for a way to use it in this battle. If he controls space, I must find a way to break this control, he decided. Naruto attacked again, but this time his strategy was different. He wasn't trying to cause direct damage. Instead, he created distractions, using clones and illusions to trick the stranger into making a mistake. Every time Naruto changed the direction of his attack, he noticed how the stranger's chakra fluctuated. "Are you trying to understand how I run this world?" the stranger asked, dodging another blow. "But it's no use. You will never comprehend what is beyond your time." "Maybe you're right," Naruto said as he created another Rasen Shuriken, "but I always rely on perseverance." He threw his attack, and this time it was not aimed at the stranger himself. Instead, it struck the ground below him. The explosion caused the space to shake, and Naruto noticed how one of the lines of energy connecting the enemy to this world began to flicker. "Here it is," Naruto realized. He began to purposefully destroy these lines. Each attack was aimed at depriving the stranger of control over reality. Naruto moved quickly, his strikes becoming more accurate. The stranger, sensing his control was weakening, intensified his attacks. But Naruto didn't give up. As the last line was destroyed, the space around them began to change. The stranger froze, his body began to shimmer, as if he could no longer hold on to this world. "Do you think you won?" he said, looking at Naruto. "But I am not the end. I am just the beginning of what lies ahead for you." His body disappeared, and with it the distorted reality. Naruto found himself back in the valley, but this time it was empty. Only the stone in the center continued to emit a faint light. Naruto walked towards the stone, feeling the Tree of Balance's chakra growing stronger. He realized that this place was not just part of the world. This was the key to something more. "You passed the test," said a voice he already knew, "but something awaits you ahead that will change your understanding of the world. Are you ready for this?" Naruto clenched his fists as he looked at the stone. "If this is what it takes to protect the world, I'm ready." Chapter 19, Gateway to the Unknown. As soon as Naruto's fingers touched the cold surface of the stone, a blinding light burst out of it. At that very moment, his consciousness was drawn into a stream of visions so vivid and intense that he could barely perceive them. He was surrounded by emptiness, but this emptiness was filled with movement. Bright flashes of light, dark swirls, unknown symbols that danced before his eyes. In these visions, he saw a new world. It was unlike anything Naruto knew. Giant floating islands connected by thin chains of energy, strange creatures with bodies that shine like stars, and endless waterfalls flowing into the void. This place was beautiful, but scary at the same time. The chakra that filled this world was incredibly powerful, but cold and alien. "Where am I?" Naruto thought, looking around. The voice that came from the depths of his mind was familiar. It was the voice that guided him throughout his journey. "You see the truth, Naruto Uzumaki. This place is the source of everything. This is the world of beginnings where everything once began." "The world has begun?" Naruto repeated. "Why am I here?" "You touched a stone that is part of this world," answered the voice. "You have become his guardian, but now you have to understand that balance is not only the struggle of light and darkness, it is a struggle between the beginning and the end." Naruto closed his eyes, trying to concentrate. His breathing slowed and his body filled with a strange warmth. The chakra flowing inside him mixed with the energy of this world, as if it became part of it. "What do I need to do?" he asked. "Accept the path that is offered to you," said the voice. "You must become a link between this world and yours. But remember, this place will not accept you until you prove your strength." Suddenly, the ground beneath Naruto began to move. He found himself on a platform floating in the void. Figures appeared around, created from the energy of this world. They resembled living sparks of light, which became denser every second, turning into humanoid forms. "These are the Guardians," said the voice. "They will check whether you are worthy to go on." The first Guardian stepped forward. His body emitted a bright light, but his movements were as swift as lightning. He rushed at Naruto, who barely managed to dodge. The air around it split and the platform shook. "They're faster than anything I've encountered," Naruto thought as he created shadow clones. The clones began to distract the Guardian, but he moved so quickly that they scattered before they even had time to attack. Naruto had to use all his speed to dodge the blows. "If normal attacks don't work, we need to try something else," he muttered, making the seals. He created a giant Rasengan, filling it with the chakra of the Tree of Balance. When the energy flared, he directed the attack directly at the Guardian. The blow was powerful, and the light surrounding the enemy began to fade. The Guardian disappeared into thin air, but two new ones appeared in his place. Now there were two of them, and they moved in unison, as if they were one. Naruto had to speed up. He used everything he had: clones, fast attacks, agility. But every time he managed to hit one, the second immediately counterattacked. "You must understand that this place requires not only strength, but also harmony," a voice rang out. "You fight, but you forget that you have to become part of this world." Naruto stopped, breathing heavily. He closed his eyes, trying to feel the energy around him. The chakra of this world flowed like a river, and he began to understand its rhythm. She wasn't hostile, she was just checking him out. He opened his eyes, now seeing the Guardian's movements differently. They weren't attacking him, they were testing to see if he could match their rhythm. Naruto changed his tactics. Instead of attacking, he began to move in unison with them. His movements became soft. He dodged, but did not try to counterattack. His chakra merged with the energy of the world, and he felt the Guardians begin to slow down. Their light became weaker until they disappeared completely. When the last Guardian disappeared, the platform stopped shaking. A new light appeared around, and the voice was heard again. "You have proven your strength, Naruto Uzumaki. Now the way will open for you." A portal appeared in front of Naruto, similar to the one he had seen earlier, but this portal was different. It was made of light and shadow, woven together. The chakra emanating from him was indescribably powerful, but not hostile. "This is your next step," said the voice. "But remember, there is more than just trials ahead of you. You will be the one who connects the beginning and the end. Are you ready?" Naruto nodded. He knew there was no turning back. Taking a deep breath, he stepped into the portal, feeling his body fill with light. Chapter 20. Source of Power. When Naruto stepped out of the portal, he immediately realized that this world was unlike any he had seen before. There were no familiar concepts here, neither the ground under your feet nor the sky above your head. Everything around consisted of streams of energy that swirled, collided, and created unusual shapes. The whole world seemed alive, but at the same time devoid of stability. The energy surrounding him pulsed, producing a low hum. Sometimes strange creatures appeared from the streams, which immediately disintegrated, as if they had been generated only for an instant. Naruto felt that every part of this world was imbued with incredible chakra, but it was uncontrollable and chaotic. "So this is what the true source of power looks like," he thought, looking around. But this place did not seem calm. It was filled with tension, as if expecting something, or someone. Naruto took a step forward, and the world immediately reacted. Streams of energy began to condense in front of him, forming a silhouette. At first it was something formless, but it soon turned into a tall figure made of pure light. Her eyes burned with a white flame, and her movements were smooth but menacing. "You dare to enter the source, mortal?" the creature said in a voice that echoed throughout the entire space. "There's no place for you here." "I didn't come to destroy," Naruto replied, activating his chakra. "I want to understand how to maintain balance." The creature looked at him and its light became brighter. "Balance?" it repeated with mockery. "Balance is an illusion. This world exists outside of time and space, outside of light and darkness. You cannot understand it without becoming a part of it." "Then so be it," Naruto said, taking a fighting stance. "If I have to go through you to find the answers, I'm ready." The figure didn't give him any more time to think. She rushed forward with stunning speed. Naruto barely had time to dodge as her blow tore through the space, leaving behind a bright trail. He created clones that immediately surrounded the enemy, but their attempts to attack were useless. The light creature simply passed through them, destroying them with its aura. He cannot be defeated by normal methods, Naruto realized as he created a giant Rasen Shuriken infused with the chakra of the Tree of Balance. He threw it, but the creature absorbed the attack and its light became even brighter. "You are trying to use a power you do not understand," it said. "This world does not forgive mistakes." Naruto froze, concentrating. He realized that fighting this creature was not just a physical battle. This world demanded from him not only strength, but also understanding. He closed his eyes, trying to feel the rhythm of the surrounding energy. The chakra around him was chaotic, but had its own pattern, its own rhythm. If he can tune into this rhythm, he can use the power of the world against its own protector. This is not just a fight. This is a test of my understanding, he realized. He changed tactics. Instead of attacking, he began to move in unison with the flow of energy. His chakra began to merge with his surroundings, and the light from the creature became less bright. It noticed this and intensified its attacks, but Naruto continued to focus. His movements became smooth, almost dance-like. He dodged the creature's attacks without attempting to strike back. At some point, he felt his chakra begin to resonate with this world. Streams of energy began to respond to his movements, creating a protective barrier around him. The creature stopped, looking at Naruto. His light began to flicker and his form became unstable. "You found the rhythm," it said, its voice no longer so menacing. "But this is just the beginning. To get out of here, you must accept the power of the source." "Accept?" Naruto asked, looking at the shimmering figure. "You must become part of this world to understand it," the creature answered. "But be careful. If you cannot maintain balance within yourself, you will lose everything that you are." A sphere filled with pure light and darkness appeared in front of Naruto. It spun, emitting powerful waves of chakra. He knew that this was the source, which he had to understand and accept. Taking a deep breath, he extended his hand towards the sphere. As soon as he touched her, light and darkness consumed his consciousness. He found himself in an endless void where time and space ceased to exist. He saw fragments of his life, his victories and defeats, his fears and dreams. "Are you ready to accept that you are part of something bigger?" said a voice inside his mind. "Yes," Naruto replied. "I'm ready." Light and darkness united, and his body was filled with incredible energy. He felt his chakra merge with the power of the source. When he opened his eyes, the creature in front of him disappeared, and the world became calm. Naruto returned to the platform, but it was now stable. Around him, the flows of energy slowed down, and their chaos disappeared. He felt that he had become part of this world, but at the same time remained himself. "You passed the test," said a voice. "Now you are the guardian of the source. But remember, with great power comes great responsibility. The world beyond awaits your return." Chapter 21, Through the Gates of the Unknown. The platform moved slowly, leaving a fading trail of energy behind it. A portal appeared ahead, floating in the air. Its light shimmered with all colors, and the chakra emanating from it resembled a whirlwind that sucked in everything around it. Naruto stood in the center of the platform, his hands clenched into fists, his thoughts confused between the awareness of his new status and the anxiety of the unknown. Now he felt different. The source power he had accepted flowed through his body, but this energy was different. It wasn't the same as the chakra he was used to. It felt like something alive, pulsating inside, ready to be used, but requiring absolute control. "Whatever awaits me beyond this portal, I'm ready," he thought, taking a deep breath. When the platform stopped in front of the portal, he didn't hesitate. Taking a step, he felt the space around him change. The world began to spin, and his body seemed to become weightless. His consciousness was plunged into absolute darkness for a moment, and then a light flashed. Naruto found himself in a new place that seemed even more alien. Here everything was distorted. The earth floated in the air, as if it was held by invisible threads. The sky was covered with cracks, from which dark energy oozed. The world seemed fragile, as if it could collapse at any moment. This place is on the verge of destruction, he realized, feeling the source chakra reacting to its surroundings. Suddenly, the air around him became denser, and he heard a dull roar. Creatures resembling demons began to emerge from the dark cracks. Their bodies were covered with dense black energy, and their eyes shone like stars. They didn't just look at Naruto, they felt him. "Something alien has entered here." A voice sounded like many whispers merging into a single whole. "This world will not accept you." The creatures rushed towards Naruto. Their movements were sharp and chaotic. He activated hermit mode, his chakra flaring blue, mixing with the power of the source. The first creature attacked, but Naruto was faster. He dodged, creating clones to distract his enemies. The clones attacked, but their blows passed through the bodies of the creatures as if they were made of fog. They can't be defeated with normal attacks, he realized, clenching his fists. Concentrating, he used the power of the source. His hands glowed, and he created a new type of technique, a light rasengan, filled with the energy of the world from which he had just emerged. The blow hit the nearest creature, and it immediately dissipated. The remaining creatures froze, their movements becoming cautious. They began to circle around him, as if trying to understand what they were dealing with. But Naruto wasn't going to wait. He used his new technique over and over again, destroying each opponent until the rifts began to close. When the last enemy disappeared, the world became quieter. The rifts healed, and the earth floating in the air began to slowly descend. "You are regaining your balance," said a voice, but now it was softer. "But your journey is not over yet." A glowing path appeared in front of Naruto again, leading to a tall tower floating in the center of this world. The tower was surrounded by glowing orbs, and its chakra was so strong that it could be felt from a distance. Naruto knew his next target was waiting there. He headed towards the tower, feeling the power of the source pushing him forward. His steps were confident, but many questions were boiling inside him. What awaits him at the top? Who rules this world? And what must he do to fully restore balance? When he approached the base of the tower, its gates opened by themselves. The inside was empty, except for a long spiral staircase leading up. Every step up those stairs felt heavy, but Naruto kept going, feeling the tension building. A figure met him at the top. It was a man in long robes that shimmered with light and darkness at the same time. His face was hidden, but an aura emanated from under his hood that made the world around Naruto tremble. "You have finally arrived," said the stranger, his voice deep and calm. "You have taken on the role of guardian, but even you don't understand what that means." "Who are you?" Naruto asked, getting into a fighting stance. "I am what connects this world with yours," he answered. "But this connection has weakened, and you came to restore it. Or destroy it." "If I'm here to restore balance, I'll do it," Naruto said firmly. The stranger raised his hand, and the world around them began to change. The space bent, and the energy swirled into a vortex. Naruto felt his body become heavy, and his chakra begin to fluctuate. "Balance is not just the balance of light and darkness," said the stranger. "It's the realization that neither of them can exist without the other. Are you ready to accept this?" Chapter 22. Test of Fate. Naruto felt the power of the source within him stir like a living being. Her pulsation intensified, reacting to every word of the stranger. The energy became more and more intense, filling his body, consciousness, and the space around him. He understood that this power was not just a gift, but also a test that he had to pass. The stranger stood motionless, his aura calm but incredibly powerful. He looked at Naruto like he was a book that he wanted to read until the last page. "It seems to you that you control this power," he said, "but the source is not a tool. This is the realization that you yourself are becoming part of something bigger. Are you ready to give up yourself to accept everything?" Naruto looked at him with unwavering determination. "I've already accepted it," he said. "If you need to give something to save the world, I will give it. But I won't let anyone destroy what is dear to me." "Then prove it," answered the stranger, raising his hand. The air around him began to distort, and Naruto felt the space become heavy. The source chakra within him flared up, but immediately encountered resistance. The stranger surrounded him with rings of energy that compressed space, limiting his movements. "This is not a battle of strength," said the stranger. "This is a battle of awareness. You must understand that yourself is only part of a larger whole." Naruto tried to move, but the rings of energy prevented him from even making seals. The source's power within him began to spiral out of control, and he felt its currents begin to distort his own chakra. "I can't just stand," he thought, gritting his teeth. "I have to find a way to use this." Concentrating, Naruto closed his eyes and sank into himself. He felt the source's chakra flow through his body, colliding with his own chakra. It was like a struggle between two rivers that cannot find a common path. But he realized that he could not try to subdue her. He must become a part of it. "You're starting to understand," the stranger's voice said as Naruto opened his eyes. The rings of energy around him began to flicker faintly. Naruto felt his chakra and source energy begin to resonate. He took a deep breath, focusing on the feeling of harmony between these forces. "I am not just an individual," he realized. "I am part of this world, part of the source. We are connected." When he realized this, the rings of energy around him scattered like dust, and he was freed. The power of the source began to flow through him smoothly and harmoniously. The stranger smiled. His aura changed. She no longer seemed threatening, but was still incredibly powerful. "You've taken the first step," he said. "But this is just the beginning. Now you must understand that balance is not only harmony within yourself, but also the ability to keep the world from destruction." He raised his hand, and the space around them began to change. The floor Naruto was standing on disappeared, and he found himself in a void. But this emptiness was alive, filled with energy that swirled around him. "Your next test is to create your own balance," the stranger said, his voice echoing in space. "This is not a fight. This is a creation." Naruto looked around. In this emptiness there was everything, but at the same time nothing. He felt the energy of the source inside him begin to mix with the surrounding space. He needed to use this power to create stability, but he didn't know where to start. "Balance, how can I create it?" he thought. Suddenly images appeared before him. Konoha, his friends, the people he fought for. He realized that balance is not just a balance of power. This is the understanding that every life, every emotion is part of a single whole. I'm beginning to understand, he said, folding his hands. Concentrating, Naruto channeled his source chakra into the space around him. He began to create. First, the ground appeared under our feet, then the sky above our heads. He added details inspired by his memories. The world began to take shape, but its harmony was fragile. As soon as Naruto created the first part, dark creatures resembling chaos began to appear from the void. They rushed to destroy what they had created, but Naruto knew he couldn't just destroy them. Balance is not the destruction of darkness, he realized. This is her acceptance. He used source chakra to transform dark beings, turning them into light. Instead of fighting them, he included them in his world. Gradually, everything became more stable, and his world became complete. When it was all over, the stranger appeared in front of Naruto again. He looked different. His aura became calmer and his voice sounded softer. You passed the test, he said. Now you're not just a ninja. You have become someone who understands how to manage balance. But remember, maintaining it will be more difficult than creating it. I'm ready, Naruto replied. I will do everything to protect this world. Chapter 23. Looking Beyond. Naruto stood in the middle of a newly created world that was filled with life. The ground underfoot no longer trembled, the sky overhead acquired bright colors, and the flows of energy, previously chaotic, became stable. He felt that the source power that flowed through him was no longer at odds with his chakra. Instead, she became part of his essence. But even in this calm, he felt uneasy. Deep within him, where the source chakra merged with his own, there was a faint sense of disharmony. It was something that was beyond the created world, beyond his understanding. It was as if something huge and ancient was slowly awakening. Balance has been restored here, he thought, looking at the created world. But something else threatens everything. The stranger appeared before him again, the one who had guided him through the trials. His aura was now softer, and his voice sounded calm, but there was a hint of wariness in his words. You feel it, don't you? He asked. Balance in your world is only one part. True balance embraces not only this world, but many others as well. Other worlds? Naruto asked. Are you saying that what I did here wasn't enough? The stranger nodded. You have restored this world, but there are forces outside of it that do not recognize your efforts. They see you as a threat. They sense that you have become part of the source and want to destroy you to restore their dominance. The stranger's words only increased the anxiety within Naruto. He knew that more battles lay ahead, but the thought that his actions could lead to an even greater threat weighed heavily on him. He clenched his fists, trying to concentrate. If they want to destroy the balance, I won't let them, he said firmly. I will do everything to protect this world and my own. The stranger extended his hand, and a map appeared in front of Naruto. It was covered in bright points of light, each representing a world or reality associated with the source. But among these luminous points, one stood out. It flickered with a dark red light as if giving a signal. This is where the threat comes from, said the stranger. If you want to protect the balance, you need to go there. What kind of place is this? Naruto asked. This is one of the first worlds to break away from the source. Its inhabitants rejected light and darkness, choosing the path of chaos. Their leader is an ancient being whose power is equal to the very essence of the source. It was sealed away for centuries, but your actions awakened it. Naruto looked at the map. He felt his chakra react to the red dot, as if it was calling to him. He understood that he had no choice. If the threat is not eliminated, the entire world he just created could disappear. Okay, he said, looking at the stranger. Show me how to get there. The stranger raised his hand, and the space around them began to distort. A new portal opened in front of Naruto, but this one was different. Its edges radiated dark energy, and even the air around it seemed heavy. Be careful, the stranger warned. This world will not accept you. He will fight you every step of the way. And remember, this is not just a battle of power. To win, you will have to understand how to work with chaos, not against it. Naruto stepped into the portal, feeling a strange pressure take over his body. When he opened his eyes, he found himself in a place that seemed completely destroyed. The ground was covered in cracks, from which dark energy was escaping. The sky was overcast with thick black clouds, occasionally punctuated by flashes of red light. This place, there is neither life nor death here, he thought, looking around. Suddenly, figures began to rise from the cracks. They were covered in shadow, their bodies unstable, as if they were made of chaos. They made no sounds, but their presence was so ominous that Naruto felt his chakra begin to constrict. You don't belong to this place, said a voice that echoed throughout the valley. Have you come to restore balance? But chaos does not tolerate order. The figures attacked simultaneously. Their movements were chaotic, but incredibly fast. Naruto activated hermit mode and used source chakra to create a protective barrier. The enemy's blows crashed against the barrier, but he felt his strength quickly draining. If I only defend myself, I won't be able to win, he thought as he created clones. The clones began to distract the figures, while Naruto focused on finding their weakness. He noticed that their bodies flickered like flames as they faced his attack. This gave him an idea. He created a new type of Rasengan, filling it with the energy of the source, and sent it directly to one of the figures. The blow passed through her body and she dissipated, leaving behind a trail of light. Like this! Naruto shouted as he aimed his attack at the others. When the last enemy was destroyed, the space around him began to crack. A powerful stream of energy burst out from the depths of the earth, and a huge figure appeared in front of Naruto. It was a creature that embodied chaos. His eyes glowed red, and his body was covered in symbols that moved as if they were alive. "You have come to me, mortal," it said in a voice that made the whole world tremble. "Do you think you can restore balance? But you don't even understand what that means." Naruto clenched his fists as his chakra flared. "I may not understand everything, but I know one thing. I will not let you destroy what is dear to me." "Then prove it," the creature answered, raising his hand. Chapter 24, Dance of Chaos. The space around Naruto continued to tremble, as if the very existence of this world was resisting his presence. The forces of chaos enveloped the air, forcing him to breathe heavily. Every step was difficult, but he knew that retreat was not an option. Before him stood a figure, the embodiment of chaos, whose red gaze burned through everything around him. "You stand before the very essence of decay," the creature said, its voice low, as if woven from many voices. "I am the beginning and the end. You, mortal, cannot resist me." Naruto clenched his fists as his chakra flared with a bright light. The energy of the source within him mixed with his own, creating a radiance that dispersed the darkness around him. "Maybe you are chaos," he said, "but I am the light that will always find a way to restore order." The creature raised its hand and the space around Naruto began to distort even more. The floor beneath his feet disappeared, and his body rose into the air, sucked into the vortex. Streams of chaos energy revolved around him, trying to tear him apart. But Naruto activated hermit mode, creating a protective barrier that repelled the first onslaught. Realizing that the defense would not help for long, he created clones that began to distract the creature. He himself focused on his feelings, trying to understand the nature of chaos. The source chakra gave him strength, but he felt that it was not enough to win. "If chaos is an uncontrollable force, then I must find its rhythm," he thought. He closed his eyes, immersed in his sensations. The chaos energy around him was powerful, but not aimless. It moved like a river, swift and destructive, but still subordinate to a certain pattern. "This is how you work," he whispered, opening his eyes. When the next blow of chaos hit him, Naruto didn't bother to defend himself. Instead, he allowed the energy to flow through him, channeling it through his chakra. His body began to glow, and the chaos energy began to lose its power. "Are you trying to harness my power?" the creature said mockingly. "It's no use." But Naruto knew what he was doing. He used a technique that allowed him to transform source chakra to stabilize chaos. His body began to move in rhythm with the flow of energy, and each step he took destroyed part of the chaos, returning the space to stability. The creature roared, its body increasing in size. It raised both arms and streams of energy burst out from them and rushed towards Naruto. The explosions were deafening, but he dodged it, creating a giant Rasengan filled with the power of the source. "If you think you can destroy everything, try to destroy this!" he shouted, directing the attack directly to the center of the figure. The blow was powerful and the creature staggered. His body began to shimmer, but he was not defeated yet. Suddenly, the creature stopped attacking. Its eyes glowed brighter and it let out a loud laugh. "You are truly strong, mortal," it said, "but you don't understand that your victory will lead to even greater chaos. The balance you seek is impossible." "You're wrong," Naruto replied, his gaze filled with determination. "Balance is not the absence of chaos. This is his control." With these words, he gathered all his strength, channeling it into his next attack. He made the seals and his chakra flared with a blinding light. It was a technique he had just created using his knowledge of the power of the source. "I'll call it Light Rasen Shuriken," he said, holding the attack in his hands. "It won't destroy you, but it will return you to a place where you can't hurt anyone." He threw an attack, and it rushed towards the creature. The blow was so powerful that the space around it cracked, and the creature let out a scream that echoed throughout the world. His body began to dissipate, turning into streams of energy. When it was over, the world became silent. Naruto was breathing heavily, his body was exhausted, but he felt like he had done everything right. The chaos around began to subside, and the space began to return to stability. The stranger appeared before him again. His gaze was focused, but there was something new in his eyes. Respect. You did the impossible, he said. You didn't destroy chaos, but transformed it. This is not just a victory, it is awareness. I just started, Naruto replied, but if I can do it here, I'll do it anywhere. Hint for continuation. The stranger nodded, and then the space around him began to change again. Naruto felt himself being taken back to his own world. But before he left this world, he heard a whisper. The real threat is yet to come. You have only touched the edge of it.